This morning's gospel lesson comes from St. Peter's first letter to the Corinthians. Any who have an ear to hear, let them hear the word of our Lord. For though I am free from all, I have made myself a servant to all, that I might win more of them. To the Jews I became as a Jew, in order to win Jews. To those under the law, I became one under the law, though not being myself under the law, that I might win those who are under the law. To those outside of the law, I became one as an outside to the law, but not being outside of the law of God, but under the law of Christ, that I might win those who are outside the law. To the weak I became weak, that I might win the weak. I have become all things to all people, that by all means I might save some. I do it all for the sake of the gospel, that I might share with them in its blessings. May God add his blessing to this, the reading of his holy word. Thanks be to God. Amen.
Let me begin by turning on my mic. Let me begin by just saying it's wonderful to be back here in Sparta, to see folks that I've had at least some journey with, and others who are new. And it's just a blessing to be here. I'm particularly thrilled to be here on the day in which the new organ is dedicated, having played for a couple services during my time when I was doing interim work here. Now the prayers can be focused differently, as opposed to, oh, please, Lord, make something on this organ work today. Right, Rich? Because you never knew what it was going to do. But what a blessing it is. And so thank you for this invitation, this opportunity to share with you today. It was on Saturday afternoon, June 9th, this year, that a group of 7 of us got onto this small bus, seated about 25, and took the journey from Amazing Grace United Methodist Church, which had just been dedicated that week, and took the ride into the international airport in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. We had been there for a week of teaching, of learning, of praying, of celebrating. And we had just concluded on that Saturday afternoon the annual conference of the Tanzanian annual conference. I went to 2 annual conferences this year. So I believe there should be a special place in heaven for me. More than just one. And I was particularly grateful because in the days that we went, we did miss one day and went to visit someplace else. That was the day where they did all of their reporting. And in Tanzania, they don't have the capabilities of printing reports. So everything was read. So if you are having difficulty sleeping, get a copy of a conference journal and have somebody read it aloud to you. Because that's basically what annual conference is there. They just read everything. So we had left after having a wonderful time of celebration that day. We had been part of the ordination service and had other opportunities to celebrate. We celebrated with the annual conference when they voted on a constitutional amendment that commits the United Methodist Church to working for equality for women across the globe. And when the vote was announced, there were 70 votes cast, 69 in favor, 1 against. And the one against said, I was really just wanted to ask a question. They said they would pray for him. But to see how the women rose to their feet and sang and danced in the middle of a conference session spontaneously. These are the types of things that, well, I will always carry with me. But there's one other experience that I will carry. As we went into the city, we ran into something that we had run into every single day. Traffic. Dar es Salaam is the largest city in Tanzania. And it just gets to certain places where it's just stop and go. So here we were stopped, and in between the vehicles you would see vendors coming up and down between the cars and trucks and buses and motorcycles and these little three-wheel car things that were taxis. I wouldn't have gotten in because I'd be afraid if anybody sneezed at it, it would fall over. But they're all over the place. And they sold everything. And somebody was selling pots and pans. There were household goods, and of course food. And somebody from our bus, one of our hosts who was riding with us to the airport, jumped off the bus, bought something, and came back on. And it was a little plastic container about this big around. And I've seen them in the delis and things like that. They were just getting the snacks for all of us. It was crickets. Fried crickets. Lest you wonder, there in my hand, it's a little hard to see him, but you can see his little black eyes staring at you. I think my cricket was actually smiling. Now, not everybody in our group was as brave as I was. But I said, what the heck? They're eating them, and they're surviving. Maybe I should try one. So I did. I said, this will probably never happen again. So I popped that cricket in my mouth. It was quite crunchy. Now let me tell you, people always say that when you have something new and you don't know what it tastes like, it tastes like chicken. Right? Crickets do not taste like chicken. It was more like a fried pork rind. It was a fried, crunchy, that's all it was. But why crunch on a cricket? Was it just for the wow factor? Was it to say I did something? I will admit, the picture was so I could show my grandsons. Because I wanted them to see, Grandpa can eat a bug and still survive. But most of it, for me, was the fact that our hosts, people who had journeyed with us through that week, people who were so generous in spirit, were offering a little hospitality. I think they were curious to see whether we would eat these because they realized it was probably something local. But when in Rome, or when in Tanzania, maybe sometimes we need to do whatever it takes to say we accept who you are. And that's okay with us. That's okay with me. Honestly, you can't really see it in that picture. I was thinking about it between services. The hardest part of that whole week was not crunching on a cricket. Although I take it off, he was wearing a clerical collar. I've been in ministry 41 years. I've never owned a clerical collar until I went to Tanzania. And we had to wear collars every time we were teaching or presenting in any way, because when in Tanzania, that is what the local custom called for. For me, it's kind of like what we heard in Paul's letter to the Corinthians, where he says, I can be all things to all people. Corinth was an interesting city. It was a cosmopolitan crossroads. It was a seaport. And there were people from all over the Mediterranean world with all sorts of belief systems, all sorts of practices coming together there. And the Corinthian church was struggling with how do we follow Christ in the midst of all of this diversity? How do we follow Christ with all the different kinds of people that we have. And Paul writes to them that I can be all things to all people. So for those who are Jews and follow the Jewish dietary laws, hey, I can do that. It's just food. And if it will be something that honors them, I can do that. To the Gentiles who don't follow any of that, I can do that too. Because while I was raised under the Jewish laws, the real law that I'm under is the law of Christ. And while he does not say it in that chapter, a couple chapters later, we know what he thinks is the law of Christ. And that is the way of love. And so I can do that. To those who are weak, I can be weak. He wasn't going to lord it over them and say, look, I'm a better Christian than you are. For those who are new on the journey, he's not going to come along and say, well, look, I was riding on this road to Damascus, and guess what happened to me? Until that's happened to you, we can't talk. No, he would be whatever it would take so that the gospel would be shared, and the blessing of the gospel could be something that he could experience as well with them. Paul's words are just as important to the church today as they were a couple thousand years ago. Because they are words that remind us that we live in a very diverse world. We live in a world where there are all sorts of differences. But we are all children of God. We live in a world where we need to learn how to be all things so that Christ can be known and lived. For me, that's what it means to be the church and to be missional, which is different than doing missions. We do missions, those are activities, programs, things, but being missional is a way of thinking, it's a mindset, it's a way of being, where we are looking beyond ourselves and we think about what we need to do for the world around us, for the community around us, so that Christ might be alive, that Christ might be made known. Being missional means that we think about how we can be the church beyond our walls. Because guess what? If we stay within our walls and we just talk to each other, sorry, we're just talking to the choir and the congregation. But how are we ever going to bring anybody new to Christ? Do we not believe that Christ has a way forward, a way of love that really could be transforming in this world? That's what we are called to do. And one of the things that I've heard as the district superintendent in these past 7.5 going on 8 long years, in church after church after church after church, every church will say almost the same thing. We want to bring in new people. How do we bring in new people? And somehow I think there are churches that think that we have like warehouses of people ready to jump on a bus and be delivered on a Sunday morning, and we'll drop them in with full wallets that they are willing to empty while they're there, and then take them back. And nothing has to change in their church. But if we are missional, we are thinking about what we have to do so that we can connect with another, that we can welcome them. Those who are looking for hope in their lives, those who are looking for a sense of peace, those who are looking for acceptance, those who are looking for hope when they're not finding it around them. And so, as I get that question, I often give them a couple answers together, none of which are comfortable, and most of them people aren't all that happy with. But yet it is what it takes if we are going to truly bring people into the light of Christ. in their lives. The first thing is that we grow when we go out of our buildings and go into the community. And we do things where people are and where people gather. Now that's not saying there's anything the matter with our buildings. We do need places for certain things to happen. But often we have been in a mindset of come and see. And we do something here, and there are some people who, for whatever reason, will never cross the doors of a church until they have a different experience of what it means to be church. And so they go to where people are. I know a couple churches in Greater New Jersey Conference right now that are doing a form of ministry that I know we're all good Methodists, so we don't know what this is, but they actually gather with people in a bar. Now, I don't mean that thing that you hang in your closet. You know, like a pub, one of those places. They're in the back room. They're gathering with people there because that's where people are. And they're saying, if this is where we need to go, because that's where there is a gathering place, then let's gather there. One of the things that we saw in Tanzania was there were 78 chartered churches. But there are all sorts of preaching stations. And a preaching station could be a storefront if you're in the city. It could be a tree if you're out in the country. It could be a little shelter. It could be somebody's living room. But the church grows because they go to where people are in their community. And they bring Christ there. The second thing that we need to do, if we are hoping to see more people come to Christ, is we need to think smaller. Now, that seems kind of counterintuitive. We need to think smaller to bring in more. Well, what we see and what works is that we stop thinking about how we all have to do everything together and start offering opportunities that work for smaller groups of people. And that means more small groups, more mission opportunities for engagement, more worship experiences that may not meet everybody's needs. My parents are members of the Caldwell Church. They're both 92, and they have in Caldwell what is called Messy Church. Now, Messy Church is not held on Sunday morning. It's held on Friday night. And it's messy. They don't worry about the messes. They have worship around the tables in Fellowship Hall. They do all sorts of activities. My mom has said to me that she's gone. It's not her favorite. And one of the biggest reasons is that her hearing devices don't do well with all of that noise and that clutter. But there's still opportunity for her to worship on Sunday. But one of the things that she said to me is, I'm so glad they have this because they're bringing in families who never have come to church before. They're reaching children who have never been to Sunday school and never had an experience of who Christ is. And they'll do what they need to do. Now, there are some who aren't happy with that. They should be liking what we do in our space at our time. We need to start thinking smaller. We need to start thinking of multiplying opportunity, which isn't necessarily the most comfortable thing, but it's faithful. It recognizes that we can be, if not all things, we can be more things to more people. The third thing is we grow when we trust that our best days are today and the days to come. We can look back at the, quote, good old days, but when we look back, all that somebody else is going to see is the back of our heads. And that's not always the best view. Now, I know there's some of you who might think that that is, but it really isn't the best view. We need to be looking at what God has provided for us today and what God is going to do for us in the future. And trust that those days are the best days because these are the new gifts that God will give us. And the fourth thing that I share with churches is churches grow when they want to and are willing to do what is required so that the good news of Jesus Christ can be shared. There are many places that say, oh, we want to bring more people to Christ. We want to bring more people into our congregation. We want to do more things. But please don't ask us to talk to the people across the street. Please don't ask us to risk unlocking our buildings and letting people come through the doors. People that we don't know yet. Please don't make us sit down with people we're not comfortable with or don't understand. And please don't ask us to leave the security and safety of our space, our time, and our way of doing things. See, it's not just about growing numbers. Although remember, we're starting to talk about numbers for worship and small groups and mission and engagement in the gospel. That's shorthand. A number is a shorthand for people. Each person that we touch, each person that we make a difference in their lives, each person that we are willing to say we will do what it takes so that they can also share in the blessing of what God has offered us is another step in the right direction of making our world a place of peace, a place of love, a place of hope, a place of promise, a place where we are truly accepting of one another. Even in the midst of our diversity, we still can love. I don't think it takes a whole lot of imagination to realize that the world we live in is so fragmented. Aren't we called to have a different way of being, to offer the world something different so that Christ, God's vision for our world, might become a reality. And we truly can draw closer to the way God intended for our world to live. Amen.